I think it'll be nice if everyone introduces themselves. Yeah.
Okay, so audio bunches. Okay, so we have 11 participants, including 2 of you, sir. So yeah. So good evening to everyone. Thank you so much, Ashwin. Thank you so much, Muzzafar, thank you even Gala, who is not, who is I think traveling. So for organizing these webinars, especially for Ladakh birders, to how to use eBird more ethically, and so let me introduce our members from Ladakh one by one. We have on the iPhone number that ID that shows is Stanzin Chamba from Nubra. He is one of the best birders from the region north of Ladakh in Nubra Valley. Then next to him we have Rigzin Wangtak. He's working in the forest department, and yes, you can also raise your hands. And then he's our founder member as well. And yes, and then we have Choldan Gasha, one of the leading birders from Ladakh, a good photographer as well. So great photographer, and welcome. Then we have Dorje Daya. His video is muted. He's also executive member of Ladakh Bus Club and one of the senior birders from Ladakh. And we have the youngest birder, Mohammad Arhan, who has a video here. Yes, Arhan, he's connecting. He's 19 years old, and he has, in the last 1.5 to 2 years, he has made great records. We have Punsok Mutuk from Zanskar with the glass. Say hi, Mutuple, Kalyan. Yeah, okay. And then Wanderlust, Mr. Rigzin Nurbu, his video is not seen. Then Gyalsan Shanku from Marcho village, another member who is in the field for a long time. Then we have Stanba, who is also a great, he has recorded maybe 10 new species with Padma Gyalpo and them in the last 1 year. Then Mr. Padma Gyalpo, another good photographer as well, a young member of Birds Club. Then we have ST Stanzin, Sonam Stanzin. Then we have Jikmet Ozer, another young member from Leh area. And then we have only one female member, respected member of our Bus Club, Sonam Wangmo. So I think I've introduced almost all of them, sir. So today we have Ashwin Viswanathan and Muzzafar Khichloo ji to let us know the good practices for to upload how to upload checklists in eBird. So over to you, Ashwin ji and Muzzafar ji. Thank you.
Thanks, Rabzan. Shall we also introduce ourselves? Muzzafar, do?
Yes, please do. Please do, sir.
Okay, so hi everyone. I am Muzzafar, and I am from Jammu and Kashmir, from Doda district, and I work with the Higher Education Department, Government of Jammu and Kashmir, and I volunteer with the eBird India as a regional reviewer for eBird, Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. That's all I can say for myself. Ashwin.
And hi everyone, I'm Ashwin, and I work with Bird Count India along with my colleagues who you've interacted with, probably Mittal, Praveen, and Suhail. And so Bird Count India is a consortium of groups all over the country, really, including Ladakh Birds Club, including various other groups whose objective is basically to monitor birds and better understand their distribution trends, etc. So It's really great to meet all of you. I've interacted with many of you online on WhatsApp, Facebook, etc. And I really look forward to continued interaction. So over to Muzzafar to start off the session.
Okay, so I'll just share my screen here.
Yeah.
Ashwin, is my voice clear?
Yes, it is.
Okay, fine. Just at the start, I want to ask you whether I will be talking mostly in English or you will prefer Hindi or a mix of English and Lobsang?
No, English is fine. Sometimes if you want to speak in Hindi, that's also fine. No
Okay.
problem. But all are fluent in English.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to, in the next couple of half an hour, we will be mostly discussing about how to improve our checklists or how to improve our e-birding. Whenever we bird in an area, how to meaningfully and precisely or correctly upload our checklists to eBird. So basically, we all know about eBird and how to do upload checklists to eBird. We will be discussing tips how to upload your checklist and which can be valuable as we can be very valuable for scientific analysis as well as conservation purpose. कहने का ये मतलब है कि हमने जो है ऐसी चेकलिस्ट अपलोड करने की कोशिश करेंगे जो कि मीनिंगफुल हो कंजर्वेशन और साइंस के लिए. ठीक है. यू ऑल नो दैट eBird checklist, they have got three basics. One is that they should belong to a single calendar date, means कि जो भी चेकलिस्ट हम अपलोड करेंगे that should not span over multiple days. एक चेकलिस्ट जो है वो एक दिन की ही होनी चाहिए. ठीक है. 2 दिन की या 3 दिन की लगातार वो चेकलिस्ट that should not span over multiple days. Second is that should correspond to a single map location. Means कि जहाँ पे हमने बर्डिंग की है, ठीक है ना, just जहाँ पे एक्चुअली व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से कि मुझे मैं आई एम नॉट सो वेल इन इंग्लिश, सो आई विल ट्राई टू मोस्टली मिक्स ऑफ इंग्लिश एंड हिंदी. पहला जो सिंगल कैलेंडर डेट में जो चेकलिस्ट थी दैट एक जो चेकलिस्ट हम अपलोड करेंगे वो एक दिन की होनी चाहिए, वो मल्टीपल डेज में नहीं जानी चाहिए. बट तो सेकंड जो है एक चेकलिस्ट जो है वो एक पर्टिकुलर लोकेशन की होनी चाहिए. मींस कि अगर हमने एक जगह पे हमने बर्डिंग किया, ठीक है ना, उसके बाद हम जब चेकलिस्ट अपलोड करने शाम को eBird वेबसाइट से जो है चेकलिस्ट अपलोड करने की कोशिश करेंगे, तो हमने जो है लोकेशन जो डालनी है वो उस बर्डिंग लोकेशन की डालनी है, ना कि वहां की डालनी है जहां से हम चेकलिस्ट अपलोड कर रहे हैं. ठीक है. इसको हम थोड़ा सा आगे भी डिटेल में डिस्कस करेंगे, मुझे थोड़ा स्टार्ट में थोड़ा सा टाइम लग रहा है. और थर्ड हम जो हम सीखेंगे वो eBird प्रोटोकॉल्स के रिलेटेड सीखेंगे. वी विल बी टॉकिंग अबाउट eBird प्रोटोकॉल्स कि eBird जो बर्डिंग एक्टिविटी है वो जो चेकलिस्ट हम अपलोड करेंगे, किस टाइप की हमने बर्डिंग की है किसी एरिया में, उसी के पैटर्न पे हम कौन सी चेकलिस्ट अपलोड करेंगे. इन तीनों के बारे में थोड़ा सा हम डिस्कशन करेंगे. सबसे पहले जो है व्हाट शुड बी इन योर चेकलिस्ट. इन योर चेकलिस्ट देयर शुड बी ऑल द बर्ड्स व्हिच यू हियर और सी. मीन्स जो आप देख रहे हैं, जिन बर्ड्स को आप देख रहे हैं वो बर्ड्स आप चेकलिस्ट में इंक्लूड करेंगे, या जिन बर्ड्स को आप सुन रहे हैं उन बर्ड्स को ही आपने चेकलिस्ट में इंक्लूड करना है. इसके अलावा आप बर्ड्स के बच्चे यानी कि जुवेनाइल्स, फ्लैजलिंग्स, हैचलिंग्स, इन सबको आप इंक्लूड कर सकते हैं अपनी चेकलिस्ट में. और उसके अलावा इंट्रोड्यूस स्पीशीज, मिसाल के तौर पर जैसे लद्दाख में तो कोई भी ऐसी स्पीशीज नहीं है जो इंट्रोड्यूस की गई हो, बट अगर किसी जगह पे आप बर्डिंग कर रहे हैं और वहां पर आपने देखा कि कोई इंट्रोड्यूस स्पीशीज है, जैसे इंडियन पीफॉल जो है पाकिस्तान में इंट्रोड्यूस किया, अगर हम पाकिस्तान में बर्डिंग करेंगे तो हम पीफॉल को इंट्रोड्यूस चेकलिस्ट में इंक्लूड कर सकते हैं अगर वहाँ की एक पॉपुलेशन, एक एस्टेब्लिश पॉपुलेशन हो इंट्रोड्यूस स्पीशीज की. लेकिन मोस्टली हम यहाँ पे क्या कर सकते हैं कि हम जो भी हम बर्ड्स देख रहे हैं, विच एवर बर्ड्स वी सी, वी कैन इंक्लूड देम इन चेकलिस्ट एज वेल एज देयर हैचलिंग्स और जुवेनाइल्स. और हमने अपने चेकलिस्ट में व्हाट वी डू नॉट हैव टू इंक्लूड इज एग्स, captive birds, pets, then dead birds, या ऑब्जर्वेशन मेड बाय अदर्स. फॉर एग्जांपल हम किसी एरिया में गए, फॉर एग्जांपल हम शे मार्शेस में बर्डिंग करने गए, शे मार्शेस से किसी ने जो है रेयर बर्ड देखा होगा, ठीक है ना, समवन हैज रिकॉर्डेड अ रेयर बर्ड फ्रॉम देयर, तो हमने जो है अगर उस रेयर बर्ड को हमने वहां पे नहीं देखा तो वी शुड नॉट इंक्लूड दैट बर्ड इन आवर चेकलिस्ट. मतलब किसी और की ऑब्जर्वेशन वी शुड नॉट इंक्लूड इट इन आवर ऑन checklist that we have to avoid. And the last is the advertisement and the commercial images we cannot upload to the checklist. This is the ethical part of uploading a checklist to the eBird. Then we should better know when to start new checklist. For example, अगर हम birding कर रहे हैं, we are और हमने जो है एक checklist start कर दी है, we should know when to start a new checklist. The general thumb rule is that the shorter the lists, both in time and duration, the more valuable information it has got. Okay, shorter in both distance as well as duration. मीन्स कि जितनी चेकलिस्ट जो है शॉर्ट होगी, डिस्टेंस ट्रेवल जितना हम डिस्टेंस ट्रेवल कर रहे हैं, जितना कम डिस्टेंस की चेकलिस्ट होगी और कम टाइम की होगी, उतनी ज्यादा उसमें इंफॉर्मेशन होगी विच विल बी वैल्यूएबल फॉर साइंस एज वेल एज कंजर्वेशन पर्पस. लॉन्ग चेकलिस्ट, ठीक है ना, स्पैनिंग और मल्टीपल हैबिटेट्स या मल्टीपल लोकेशंस, दैट आर नॉट एज यूजफुल एज वेल एज शॉर्ट चेकलिस्ट. सो आइडियली व्हेन शुड वी स्टार्ट अ न्यू चेकलिस्ट? First is when we change the birding locations. For example, if we are birding in Shea, then we move towards Khichloo. Then what we should do, we should stop the first checklist near the near the Khichloo monastery or behind the Khichloo monastery. Means we have to upload the checklist from a particular location, then start another checklist for another location, then we have to start a checklist for Khichloo area. Similarly, whenever there is a change of habitat, for example, अगर हम जो है water body के around जो है birding कर रहे हैं, we are birding in a near a water body, उसके बाद वी आर मूविंग टुवर्ड्स दिस फॉरेस्ट एरिया. अगर फॉरेस्ट एरिया की तरफ जा रहे हैं, ठीक है ना, तो वाटर बॉडी में जितने टाइम हम बर्डिंग कर रहे हैं उस पीरियड की ही चेकलिस्ट हम अपलोड करेंगे. जब हम फॉरेस्ट की तरफ जाएंगे, देयर इज अ चेंज ऑफ हैबिटेट, वी शुड स्टार्ट अ न्यू चेकलिस्ट फॉर दैट हैबिटेट. तो कहने का मतलब ये मतलब है कि व्हेनेवर देयर इज अ चेंज इन हैबिटेट, that habitat may be any type, scrubby type, forest type or water body type, we should start a new checklist for every different habitat type. Then if we are birding for a stationary from a stationary position, means we are birding from a fixed vantage point and we are observing birds from that vantage point, we should include all the birds in one single checklist from that stationary point. उसके बाद अगर हम stationary point से कहीं travel करना start देंगे, जब हम ट्रैवल करना स्टार्ट कर देंगे तो पहली चेकलिस्ट हमने वहीं पे स्टॉप करनी है. तो ट्रैवलिंग के दौरान हम जब नई चेकलिस्ट जो है वो अपलोड करना स्टार्ट कर देंगे. उसके अलावा अगर हम स्टेशनरी पोजीशन पे बर्डिंग कर रहे हैं, ठीक है ना, ये मैं प्रोटोकॉल्स में थोड़ा सा और डिटेल में बताऊंगा आपको. एक पर्टिकुलर पोजीशन पे हम स्टेशनरी बर्डिंग कर रहे हैं, मींस वी आर ऑब्जर्विंग द बर्ड फ्रॉम अ फिक्स लोकेशन. अगर हम 1 घंटे से ज्यादा हो गया उस पोजीशन पे, तो हमने क्या करना है कि 1 घंटे के बाद हमने नई चेकलिस्ट स्टार्ट करनी है, ठीक है ना. 1 घंटे तक हम एक चेकलिस्ट रखेंगे स्टेशनरी पोजीशन पे कि हमने एक जगह बैठे हैं और एक जगह से हम पूरे बर्ड्स को देख रहे हैं. तो 1 घंटे तक हम एक चेकलिस्ट रखेंगे. 1 घंटे के बाद हम नई चेकलिस्ट अपलोड करना स्टार्ट कर देंगे. इसी तरह से अगर हम ट्रेवल कर रहे हैं तो थंब रूल इज कि 1 मील तक हम एक चेकलिस्ट बनाएं और एक मील अप्रोक्सीमेटली 1.6 किलोमीटर, मैंने 2 किलोमीटर रखा है, तो 2 मीटर तक हम एक चेकलिस्ट रखेंगे. 2 किलोमीटर के बाद हम दूसरी चेकलिस्ट अपलोड करना स्टार्ट कर देंगे, ठीक है. ये 2 चीजें हमने ध्यान में रखनी है कि नंबर 1 कि अगर हम फिक्स्ड किसी व्हेन वी आर बर्डिंग फ्रॉम अ स्टेशनरी पोजीशन और फिक्स्ड पोजीशन, वी हैव टू अपलोड मल्टीपल चेकलिस्ट स्पैनिंग 1 hour each. And similarly, when we are traveling, we have to upload checklist after every 2 kilometer or after every mile. Then there is a pro tip from eBird that they recommend traveling checklist under 8 kilometers. This is mean we have, if the maximum distance that a birder can keep his checklist going is 8 kilometers, and for stationary checklists it is 3 hours. But limiting our checklist to less than an hour or 1 mile provides even more checklist precisions. These are the maximum distances, but the ideal is 1 hour for stationary and 2 kilometers for traveling. Next is to choose an accurate location. So we have to select a location that accurately represents our birding activity. Precise locations, these are essential for scientists to better understand not just the birds we are observing, but also where they are, in which habitat they can be found. इसमें क्या है कि for example, अगर हम eBird, अगर आप eBird वेबसाइट से जो है चेकलिस्ट अपलोड कर रहे हैं, तो वहां पे आपको जो है चेकलिस्ट लोकेशन डालनी पड़ती है, ठीक. लेकिन अगर हम eBird ऐप से चेकलिस्ट जो है वो डाल रहे हैं, तो eBird चेकलिस्ट में क्या, eBird ऐप में क्या है, मैं आपको दिखाना चाहूंगा थोड़ा सा. दिस वन। यहाँ पे अगर आप देखेंगे eBird चेकलिस्ट जो ऐप है, यहाँ पे एक ऑप्शन आता है रिकॉर्ड ट्रैक का। अगर हम रिकॉर्ड ट्रैक को ऑन पोजीशन पे रखेंगे तो वो क्या करता है, इट विल रिकॉर्ड योर ट्रैक। जहां जहां आप जाएंगे उस एरिया को वो ट्रैक करता जाएगा। इसकी मदद से इससे क्या फायदा होगा कि आपको जो है चेकलिस्ट लोकेशन ऑटोमेटिकली जो है eBird जो है वो आपकी लोकेशन भी नोट करेगा, आपका डिस्टेंस ट्रेवल वो भी नोट कर लेगा, और आपका टाइम पीरियड, आपने कितने टाइम के लिए बर्डिंग की वो भी नोट करेगा, और आपका प्रोटोकॉल, आपकी किस टाइप बर्डिंग कर रहे हो वो मैं थोड़ा सा आगे बताऊंगा कि प्रोटोकॉल क्या चीज है, उसको भी वो नोट कर लेगा। ये ऑटोमेटिकली सारा eBird आपका ले लेगा, तो आपको लोकेशन डालने की जरूरत ही नहीं पड़ेगी। ठीक है ना, ये eBird ऐप में थोड़ा सा फायदा होता है। लेकिन अगर आप जो है eBird वेबसाइट से अगर आप जो है लोकेशन डाल रहे हैं, तो आइडियली क्या करना, हमने क्या करना चाहिए कि जितना हमने डिस्टेंस ट्रेवल किया, जो हमारा रोड था, ट्रेवलिंग रोड था, उसके मिडल में वी हैव टू कीप द लोकेशन ऑन द मिडल ऑफ दैट रोड। और उस पोजीशन पे दैट बेस्ट रिप्रेजेंट द जनरल हैबिटेट वेयर वी आर बर्डिंग, या उस पोजीशन या तो मिडिल ऑफ द रोड पे डालना है या उस पॉइंट पे डालना है जहाँ पे एक विच रिप्रेजेंट्स द होल एरिया जहाँ पे आपने बर्डिंग कर रखी हो। आइडियली व्हाट यू शुड डू इज कि आप जो है अपनी लोकेशन जो है नियरेस्ट पॉसिबल हॉटस्पॉट्स, eBird जब आप मैप पे जाएंगे, जब आप चेकलिस्ट सबमिट करेंगे, वहाँ पे लोकेशन जहाँ आपकी होगी, तो आसपास में कोई ना कोई अगर eBird हॉटस्पॉट होगा जो eBird ने ऑलरेडी डिक्लेयर कर रहा होगा, तो कोशिश ये करनी है कि वी शुड मर्ज और लोकेशन विद दैट हॉटस्पॉट इंस्टेड ऑफ क्रिएटिंग अ पर्सनल लोकेशन। इफ अगर आसपास में कोई हॉटस्पॉट नहीं है, इफ देयर इज नो हॉटस्पॉट अवेलेबल नियर बाय, देन वी शुड क्रिएट अ पर्सनल लोकेशन देयर, बट आइडियली वी शुड मर्ज आवर लोकेशन विद द नियरेस्ट पॉसिबल हॉटस्पॉट। देन दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, जब भी हम eBird से वेबसाइट से चेकलिस्ट अपलोड करते हैं, तो आपको जो है एंड पे एक क्वेश्चन आंसर करना पड़ता है कि आर यू सबमिटिंग अ कंप्लीट चेकलिस्ट ऑफ द बर्ड्स व्हिच यू आर एबल टू आइडेंटिफाई, यस और नो। इस तरह से ऑन द eBird ऐप आल्सो वहाँ पे भी आपको क्वेश्चन ही आंसर करना पड़ता है कि वेदर वी आर सबमिटिंग अ कंप्लीट चेकलिस्ट और नॉट। So what are this complete and incomplete checklist is? A complete checklist is any eBird list where birding is our primary purpose, and we were able to identify to the best of our ability all the birds which we were able to hear or see. मतलब कि हम किसी पर्टिकुलर एरिया में बर्डिंग करने गए और हमने वहां पे हर एक बर्ड को आइडेंटिफाई किया, लिस्ट बनाई उसकी, जिन बर्ड्स को हमने देखा या सुना कॉल्स के जरिए या सॉन्ग्स के जरिए, और उनको हमने आइडेंटिफाई किया, उन सबको हमने एंटर किया। अगर हम एक पर्टिकुलर एरिया के सारे बर्ड्स को एंटर करेंगे, वो हमारी कंप्लीट चेकलिस्ट मानी जाएगी। लेकिन अगर हम किसी पर्टिकुलर एरिया में गए, हम वहां पे बर्डिंग कर रहे हैं, ठीक है ना, लेकिन हमने कुछ उन्हीं बर्ड्स की लिस्ट बनाई जो हम देख पाए, कुछ बर्ड्स को हमने एक्सक्लूड किया। फॉर एग्जांपल कुछ दो तीन बर्ड्स हमने सुना, लेकिन हम वी वर नॉट एबल टू आइडेंटिफाई देम, उन बर्ड्स को हमने लिस्ट में इंक्लूड नहीं किया, दैट लिस्ट इज कॉल्ड एज इनकम्प्लीट चेकलिस्ट। यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा मैंने इनके बारे में थोड़ा सा लिखा है कि इनकम्प्लीट चेकलिस्ट इज दैट चेकलिस्ट विच लिस्ट जस्ट द हाइलाइट्स फ्रॉम योर बर्डिंग ट्रिप। मीन्स अगर आप किसी एरिया में गए, वहां पे आपने सिर्फ दो तीन रेयर बर्ड्स को जो है नोटिस किया, उनकी लिस्ट बनाई, और कॉमन बर्ड जैसे मैना, स्पैरो, इनको एक्सक्लूड कर दिया, तो आप सिर्फ हाइलाइट्स कोई रेयर बर्ड्स को ही अपलोड कर रहे हो, दैट बिकम्स योर इनकम्प्लीट चेकलिस्ट। ठीक है, या आपने कुछ बर्ड सुने लेकिन उनको आप आइडेंटिफाई नहीं कर पाए, उनको अपनी लिस्ट से आपने अलग कर दिया, उनको आपने रिपोर्ट नहीं किया, तो वो लिस्ट भी जो है इनकम्प्लीट चेकलिस्ट मानी जाती है। बट आइडियली व्हाट वी शुड डू, वी शुड ट्राई टू include all the birds which we can see or hear। जिन बर्ड्स को हम आइडेंटिफाई नहीं कर पाएंगे, उनको हमने कैसे कैसे चेकलिस्ट में इंट्रोड्यूस करना है, कैसे इंक्लूड करना है, वो मैं टुवर्ड्स द एंड आपको बताऊंगा थ्रू स्पॉजर स्लैशेस। तो अगर हम किसी बर्डिंग लोकेशन पे हमने सब बर्ड्स को जो है आइडेंटिफाई किया, उनकी लिस्ट बनाई, तो तो वो जो है कंप्लीट चेकलिस्ट मानी जाएगी, तो हम इसको आंसर यस करेंगे। अगर हमने सब बर्ड्स को इंक्लूड नहीं किया उस एरिया में, हमने कुछ ऐसे बर्ड्स को छोड़ दिया जो हम पहचान नहीं पाए, विच वी आर नॉट एबल टू आइडेंटिफाई, तो तब हम इस केस में नो कर देंगे। साइंटिफिक एनालिसिस के लिए, कंजर्वेशन पर्पस के लिए कंप्लीट चेकलिस्ट जो है वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। कोशिश हमने ये करनी है कि हम ज्यादा से ज्यादा कंप्लीट चेकलिस्ट अपलोड करें इंस्टेड ऑफ इनकम्प्लीट चेकलिस्ट। नेक्स्ट आता है आपका eBird प्रोटोकॉल्स। प्रोटोकॉल क्या चीज है कि eBird के प्री डिफाइंड प्रोटोकॉल्स हैं, सेट प्रोसेसेस हैं, जिनके मतलब उनके जरिए हमें पता चलता है कि हमारी बर्डिंग एक्टिविटी किस टाइप की थी या हम किस टाइप की चेकलिस्ट जो है सबमिट करने जा रहे हैं ईबर्ड पे। मिसाल के तौर पर आपको ये जो है सब दिखता, मतलब ईबर्ड वेबसाइट पे ये सब दिखता है जब आप चेकलिस्ट जो है डाल रहे होते हैं कि यहाँ पे आपको ऑब्जर्वेशन टाइप आपको देना पड़ता है कि यू आर ट्रैवलिंग इधर यू आर स्टेशनरी, हिस्टोरिकल या इंसिडेंटल। ये प्रोटोकॉल्स हैं ईबर्ड के कि आपकी बर्डिंग किस टाइप की थी। क्या आप ट्रैवल कर रहे थे? क्या आप स्टेशनरी पॉइंट से आप बर्ड्स को ऑब्जर्व कर रहे थे? क्या आप कोई हिस्टोरिकल चेकलिस्ट जो आपने 2-3 साल पहले कहीं बर्डिंग की हुई हो, ठीक है ना, उसके नोट्स आपके पास पड़े, क्या वो आप इंट्रोड्यूस करना चाहेंगे ईबर्ड को? या कहीं इंसिडेंटल चेकलिस्ट? इसके एक एक के बारे में थोड़ा सा ध्यान देखिए। स्टेशनरी प्रोटोकॉल क्या है? इसमें क्या है कि स्टेशनरी प्रोटोकॉल है कि अगर आप किसी एरिया में जा रहे हो, बर्डिंग वाज योर प्राइमरी पर्पस। सेकंड इज यू नो द एग्जैक्ट स्टार्ट एंड अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम स्पेंट बर्डिंग। क्या आप किसी एरिया में जा रहे हैं, बर्डिंग आपका प्राइमरी पर्पस है, आपको ये पता होना चाहिए कि मैंने बर्डिंग किस टाइम स्टार्ट की और कितने टाइम के लिए मैंने बर्डिंग की, ठीक है। उसके अलावा आप उस फिक्स पोजीशन से 30 मीटर तक इधर उधर या किसी भी डायरेक्शन में आप नहीं गए, ठीक है ना, तो वो प्रोटोकॉल जो है वो स्टेशनरी प्रोटोकॉल माना जाएगा। तो आप अगर तब आप अगर चेकलिस्ट अपलोड करेंगे, वो स्टेशनरी चेकलिस्ट होगी, ठीक है। यहाँ पे आप जो है स्टेशनरी को क्लिक करेंगे। इसका थोड़ा थोड़ा डिटेल जो है यहाँ पे दी गई है कि यू स्टेड एट अ फिक्स्ड लोकेशन। तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर आप बर्डिंग करने गए, ठीक है ना, आपने एक वेंटेज पॉइंट सेलेक्ट किया, उस वेंटेज पॉइंट से आप बर्ड्स को ऑब्जर्व कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, एंड यू आर नॉट मूविंग मोर देन 30 meters in any direction, that protocol will be considered as stationary protocol and you will select stationary here instead of any other traveling or historical. You लेकिन इसमें क्या है कि यहाँ पे मैंने एक नोट लिखा है कि व्हेन सबमिटिंग चेकलिस्ट फ्रॉम ईबर्ड मोबाइल विद ट्रैकिंग ऑन, द ऐप विल ऑटोमेटिकली सेट योर ऑब्जर्वेशन प्रोटोकॉल टू स्टेशनरी। जैसे मैंने आपको पहले ही बता दिया कि अगर हम ईबर्ड ऐप से अगर बर्डिंग कर रहे हैं, वहां पे हमने ट्रैकिंग जो है वो ऑन रखा, देन ईबर्ड क्या है ऑटोमेटिकली आपका प्रोटोकॉल डिफाइन करेगा। ईबर्ड विल नोटिस कि द पर्सन हैज नॉट मूव्ड मोर देन 30 meters, सो इट विल ऑटोमेटिकली सेट योर प्रोटोकॉल टू स्टेशनरी। योर चेकलिस्ट विल बी सबमिटेड अंडर स्टेशनरी प्रोटोकॉल। eBird, अगर आप ना 30 मीटर से if you have traveled more than 30 meters, तो eBird will automatically take that protocol as traveling because you have traveled more than 30 meters, तो automatically जो है eBird उसको traveling में डाल देगा। लेकिन stationary, फिर से मैं थोड़ा सा repeat करना चाहूंगा, stationary protocol is that protocol where we are birding from a fixed location and where we have not moved more than 30 meters in any direction. So ideally, checklist in stationary protocol, we should click on the stationary observation type, and we should submit one checklist for 1 hour, and after 1 hour we should start another checklist in case of stationary protocols. Then next is the traveling. The first 2 points are the same, that the primary purpose of was birding. Then we know the exact start and amount of time spent in birding. And traveling में क्या है कि हमने जो है 30 मीटर से ज्यादा जब हम ट्रैवल करेंगे, ठीक है ना, तो उस केस में हम प्रोटोकॉल जो है वो सेट करेंगे ट्रैवलिंग। यहाँ पे अगर हमने जो है बर्डिंग कर रहे हैं किसी एरिया में, ठीक है ना, एंड वी हैव ट्रेवल्ड डिस्टेंस मोर देन 30 meters, देन वी विल क्लिक ऑन ट्रैवलिंग हियर। ओके, थोड़ी थोड़ी डिटेल जो है हर एक के सामने यहाँ पे दी गई है। लेकिन ट्रैवलिंग के केस में फिर क्या है कि आपको स्टार्ट टाइम देना पड़ेगा, ड्यूरेशन देनी पड़ेगी, एंड डिस्टेंस ट्रैवल आपको देना पड़ेगा। But again, track on that you don't have to give all these information. The eBird app will itself take all these information: the start time, the duration, the distance traveled, including the observation type. The eBird app will automatically record that date. Then comes the incidental checklist. For example, let's say that you are moving from Leh to Khardungla, and on the way you are observed some rare bird, for example, merlin or red red kite, which is a. So what you will do is, and you want to enter that observation into eBird. So what you will do is you will upload that bird to the eBird using the incidental protocol here. Incidental protocol, which means that birding was not your primary purpose, means you are noting a bird while driving or gardening. Under incidental protocol, what you will do is you will click the incidental protocol, enter that bird, and eBird will automatically take that checklist as incomplete checklist because you are not including all the birds you had recorded at that particular location. You are recording only that bird which you are interested in. That is the incidental protocol type. And next is the historical protocol, historical birding activity. It means that if you have done birding some 3 or 4 years back, you have got the notes of that birding activity, and you want to enter those observations to the eBird, then you will click the eBird protocol here. Historical protocol here. And under historical, you don't actually have to enter the start time, duration, distance. You don't actually have. But if you know, if you have got that in all these details in those notes, you can enter them. आप इनको कर सकते हो. लेकिन ideally ये फिर जरूरत नहीं है अगर आप historical checklist upload करना चाहेंगे. Mostly क्या हो गया कि if you are birding in recent times, इस साल में, इस महीने या पिछले महीने या उससे पिछले महीने आपने बर्डिंग की होगी, वी शुड नॉट आइडियली पुट देम अंडर हिस्टोरिकल. हमें क्या करनी कोशिश करनी है कि वी शुड अपलोड ऑल द चेकलिस्ट ऑफ द रिसेंट टाइम्स अंडर आइदर ट्रैवलिंग प्रोटोकॉल और स्टेशनरी प्रोटोकॉल. वी शुड अवॉइड अपलोडिंग रिसेंट टाइम चेकलिस्ट अंडर हिस्टोरिकल. हिस्टोरिकल चेकलिस्ट आप तभी यूज करेंगे जब आप काफी पुरानी जो चेकलिस्ट आप अपलोड करना चाहेंगे eBird के ऊपर. So once you select the traveling or stationary incidental checklist, then you have to click on the complete or incomplete checklist, and you are done with your checklist. So इसमें incidental checklist में एक important चीज ये है कि we should जैसे कि मैंने पहले बताया कि incidental checklists are not used in scientific analysis or for conservation purpose. So what we should ideally do is convert all the incidental checklists into a traveling or stationary list. For example, I will again give you an example. For example, we are traveling from Leh to Khardugla and we observed a merlin by the side of the road. So what we should ideally do, if possible, if you have got time, we should bird at that particular location for a minimum 5 minutes, okay, and try to list all the birds which we had observed here and include them under a stationary list to the eBird. So that will be helpful for the scientific purpose instead of just putting the incidental list of incidental list. And second is thing that we should try to count all the birds possible in any birding area instead of putting x means that you are mentioning that this species was present, but you are not actually mentioning how many of the species were present there. X means this. So ideally, we should try to count all the species which we will be observing in a particular area. eBird website पे पूरा full length article है regarding how to count different process of how to count birds. I will share that link with Lobsang, and he will share with all of you that link to that article of how to count birds. देन इसके बारे में मैंने थोड़ा सा आपको बता दिया कि eBird मोबाइल ट्रैक्स का क्या फायदा है कि अगर आप इसको ट्रैक को ऑन करोगे, इट विल ऑटोमेटिकली रिकॉर्ड योर लोकेशन, योर प्रोटोकॉल, योर डिस्टेंस ट्रेवल्ड एज वेल एज योर टाइम. Then at the end we should stop track and upload the checklists. Then what we should do is we should try to document the species. जो भी हमने species देखी, we should either add notes to them or add photographs or call recordings to them. For example, यहाँ पे 3 species हैं, black-headed gull, Pralaz gull, and lesser black-backed gull. So if you have got a camera with you, you can upload pictures that will help in identifying different species. If you don't have a camera, then you should try to add notes of how you identified these birds and how you identified this bird with another species. For example, if you want to add black-headed gull, you should add notes that how did you differentiate it from brown-headed gull or brown-headed gull. So ideally, we should try to include photos if possible, or calls if possible, or at least notes of how you identify that bird. Even for common species, the photographs are good. So for rare species, we should try to upload as many photographs as possible from different angles. eBird has a facility of uploading 10 photographs for each observation. So this will help in identification purpose for the reviewers or for the general public in documenting that bird from the area. Then this is very important. जैसे incomplete checklist में मैंने को बताया कि for example आपने कोई bird सिर्फ सुना, you were able to hear a bird, but you were not able to identify to the species level. So how you should include that bird in your complete checklist is that you should just be able, if you are able to identify that which group this bird belongs. For example, mostly we see warbler species, okay, which we are not able to identify. So we should put that them as spurs. We call them as spurs. For example, you add a warbler species as warbler sp dot, means that you have entered that bird as warbler spur. Okay. Similarly, if there is a flycatcher group of bird which you are not able to identify, so you should enter that bird as flycatcher species. Then similarly, if you are not able to identify which gull species is that, you should enter that as gull species. So this way you can upload the complete checklist and also document the bird which you are not able to identify. And second is the slash. For example, recently even Lobsang had this problem with the yellow-browed warbler and Hume's warbler. So if you're not able to identify which warbler it was or which species it was, so you can use the slash. For example, Hume's warbler slash yellow-browed warbler. Similarly, Tega oblique raspberry flycatcher, greater short-oed log oblique sykes log. These are the slash which we can use when we have a confusion between two birds that we cannot identify which of the bird it is. So we can use the slash always there in order to complete those checklists. So we should always have a habit of checking our list before submitting it. इसलिए ताकि हम जो है ये देखें उसमें कि हमने कोई रेयर बर्ड ना इंक्लूड किया हो उस चेकलिस्ट में गलती से बाय मिस्टेक we don't have enter any rare bird or that bird which do not belong to that area. We should always have a habit of checking the list before submitting it. So here are a few examples I want to show how what is the can anyone tell me what is the problem here in this checklist? Any one of you?
This is flagged. The checklist is flagged.
Yeah, the checklist is flagged, but why? Can any one of tell you? Just have a look. Yes, because of long distance. You can see that the protocol here is traveling. So ideally, the eBird suggests is a minimum distance travel should be 2 kilometers, but maximum ideally you keep the checklist below 8 kilometers. One is that this checklist is very long, it's 100 kilometers, 10 hours duration. Secondly, if you see here, it covers a large area of Chandigarh city, the whole of the Chandigarh, including the Sukna Lake, Chakki Mode, and including the city of Chandigarh. So जैसे कि मैंने पहले भी आपको बताया कि one checklist should belong to one habitat or one place. It should not encompass multiple locations or multiple habitats. So this is this checklist is belong to the whole of the Chandigarh, including different habitats or subtypes. So this is why the checklist was flagged, because it encompasses multiple locations. So we should avoid always uploading checklists from multiple locations.
Can I say something, Muzzafar? Once?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So for example, along these lines, let's say that somebody makes a 100-kilometer checklist going all the way from Leh towards Sokar and beyond, and sees blackneck crane or some important species like that, and reports the whole thing from Leh. 100-kilometer checklist starting from Leh. So what you're going to get then is, when you look at the distribution of something like blackneck crane, instead of places like Sokar, Hanle, etc., where it's present, you're going to find it being distributed inside Leh town, which is a big problem finally when we're trying to understand its range, trying to understand regions which are important for its conservation. So that's why these precise locations are extremely important for science and conservation. So anything about 10-15 kilometers can give a completely wrong idea of the habitat that the bird prefers, of where it's distributed. So back to you, Muzzafar.
Yeah. Right. So similarly, this is another example where the observer had uploaded a checklist from multiple habitats, from the wetland as well as from the open scrubby areas. Even the distance you can see is 80 kilometers. So this checklist was also flagged because of the long distance travel as well as the sharing from multiple habitats. The checklist, the birds were merged from different habitats into one single checklist. Ideally, what should have been done is he should have uploaded, or he or she should have uploaded one checklist for one habitat type and another checklist for another habitat type. So this checklist was also flagged because of that reason. And similarly, this checklist, again, if you could see that the start time is 11:20 a.m., but it has been placed under as nocturnal checklist. Why? Because the time duration is 8 hours and 10 minutes and the protocol is stationary. So this is again a wrong way of uploading a checklist. Because ideally it's not possible that we could stay at a single location for 8 hours and upload all the birds from 11:20 till 8 in the evening. It's not possible that we were birding at a stationary location. So these common mistakes we have to avoid while uploading checklists. So these are the few examples. I hope that you were able to understand what I was trying to convey, how to meaningfully and precisely or correctly upload your checklist to eBird. So if you have any questions, me and Ashwin, we are here to answer all your questions. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Muzzafar ji. So yes, we have done so many mistakes, not following those protocols, as well as the distances we were doubtful, because when we go to Hanle, that is like almost 300 kilometers one way, and come back, and we did it in 10 hours, 8 hours birding. And I think many of us must have done that same mistake. So it was very enlightening, and I will request all the birders here from Ladakh to have your questions ready, because here we have Muzzafar and Ashwin ji to answer. Please, Sangme tia zade chiji to question you now.
Yes, I have few questions to ask Mr. Muzzafar.
Yes, yes,
Good
please.
evening.
Good evening.
So, what does it means the checklist is flat when we doesn't follow the protocol? What does exactly it happens when we submit the checklist? Hello.
You mean to say that after you submit a checklist, or what happens when it is flagged?
Yes.
I think yes, he means that.
Exactly, what
Once
exactly
the
it means?
checklist
Exactly flat means what exactly that means?
the flag checklist means that it is put out of the public view.
Uh-huh.
Yes, you will not see it on the eBird website. It's just put under out of the public view.
Uh-huh. And second thing is, you said avoid adding X.
Yes.
So most of the time we heard that when we see like more than 100 or more than 100 birds we see in a flock, then we put X. So, or does it means we shouldn't put that X, or we have to put how to put when we see more than 100 birds in a flock? What exactly we should put?
Ideally, what you should do is try to count them. There are different ways of counting birds. There is a full length article, as I told you. There's eBird has published a full length article on how to count birds under different circumstances. When you have got a large flock of birds, how you count them. When you have birds who are swimming who are in a water body, how you count them. There is a full length article. I will share the link to Lobjang, and he will share further with you. Ideally, we should not put X means that okay, that bird is present in that area. But for study of bird monitoring, or to study the trends in the bird population, to study their migration, so that X is not helpful. The X is not helpful. The actual count is helpful. How many birds there were. So we should always try to have a habit of counting birds. For example, I will give you an example. We should always count birds in number in tens. For example, you define an area. Okay, under this area there are 10 birds. So multiplied that area I will just confuse you here. I will send you an article. Lobsang, please share them with Dorji Dayaji. That article is very helpful in quoting birds. Ashwin, you want to add further on this?
So I think I've covered everything. I just want to reiterate that sometimes it might be a little difficult to count when numbers are really high, but I think with a little bit of practice, if we keep trying, soon we get an idea. There are very techniques that you can become better at, such as block counting. Quickly divide the flock into 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, and then suddenly 10s and then 50s, then 50, 50, 50, and then a really fast flock also, you might be able to count to a few hundreds. And even you can always mention that this is approximately, let's say, 600 counted in blocks of 50 or 100. So that way it need not be exact to the to ones and twos, but as close as possible to the count, because eventually for conservation, it is numbers that really matter. So we really need to have an idea about numbers.
Thank you, Ji.
More questions? Somewhere tears are chahiye. Meanwhile, others get ready with their question. I have one question regarding Bird Count India and the eBird. So, what is it? The Bird Count India is a separate Indian, entity, and then eBird is a, world, please, Ashwinji, I think it is for you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So, Bird Count India is not formally related to eBird in any way. So Bird Count India is a group based in India, an informal group, which encourages monitoring of birds and helps try both to build capacity and to find ways to better monitor India's birds. So now this is done through a variety of ways, including building these networks around the country, encouraging bird watchers to upload the observations using some tool. So when Bird Count India was started in 2013, eBird wasn't being used in India yet. So we were looking for trying to figure out which tool is best to be able to build a citizen science initiative of this sort in India, because in India at that point we had nothing of that sort. So there was no way for us to actually assess our birds. So then we looked at all the tools that are around being used around the world, and because eBird was being used globally, we decided that eBird was perhaps the best tool to be able to use. So eBird is just a tool that allows us to monitor our birds. So Bird Count India and eBird are unrelated, but we encourage the use of eBird now because at the moment we believe that it's the best possible tool. And there are a few things that we really like about eBird, especially that the data is publicly available. Whatever we upload, we can download, and anybody in the country, anybody in the world can use it for science and conservation, which is in the philosophy of the sort of science that we want to do as citizens. So that's why the use of eBird. But we also work closely with eBird informally. We manage the eBird India portal in eBird India portal. And we also, things like taxonomic updates, etc. We try and implement our own India version of that. So whenever eBird updates species names, etc., we try and bring in English India names. You might have seen that. So you can change your preferences to English India languages, where you'll get names that we are used to from agreement book, etc. Even if these are not the names that are used globally. Let me think of some examples. Something like Sykes lark, which we have down in the south. It's called tawny lark according to eBird. But in English India, we think of it as Sykes lark for us. So that way we try and provide these names, etc. And also we generally we coordinate with a network of reviewers, editors, etc. along the country, including Muzzafar, Lobsang, many other local leaders, so that there is this network of data quality control that comes in, where in situations like this, you can always talk to others about best practices, how to maintain data quality, and also to go through observations to see whether they are scientifically documented in some way. So that is the role of Bird Count India largely. So yeah, thanks for that question.
Thank you so much, Ashwin. It clears our this one, because I remember Ramit had come to Ladakh, I think for the first time, we, with the help of NCF, our club and Snow Leopard Conservancy, we have organized the first eBird monitoring kind of this, how to use eBird, workshop. So that was when I think Ramit was also representing Bird Count here, no?
Yes, so Ramit still works with us informally, but he's based in Australia now. So
Oh, he's based in Australia. Okay,
yes.
okay, okay. Okay, so
Oh, excellent example from Padma Gyalpo. So Blackwing Snowfinch is the name given to what we call Tibetan snowfinch globally. So if you change your preferences to English India, you will see that it will come as Blackwing Snowfinch in brackets Tibetan snowfinch. Otherwise, Tibetan snowfinch, if you do not change your preferences, you'll see that it's actually Henry snowfinch. So that's a bit slightly complicated. So that's why we try and bring in these names which are more meaningful and are easier for Indian birders to use. So that way, I suggest you all change your language preferences to English India, and any of us can guide you for that. Sorry, Lobsang. Yeah.
no, that was wonderful, because I have a great difficulty in identifying what is white wing and what is black wing, and this is our this is still going on. Very often when we see black winged snowfinch, we try to find reasons to prove it to be white wing because we haven't seen, or I don't know the differences. So but then Gyalpo is there, they're younger birders. They're like much more fantastic, better than us. So wonderful, thank you. And then questions, please. Questions from Ladakh Bird Club members, please.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I have one question.
Good
Yes,
evening,
please.
Khichloo.
Yeah, sir, I have one question. For example, if we are traveling in a group for a birding purpose, suppose we are going to Hanle, and on the way back, if we will spot any bird incidentally, then shall we be putting that in traveling section or incidental one?
Okay, so this is a good question. Ideally, what eBird prefers is that we should convert all the incidental checklists into traveling or stationary. So, what if time permits, what you should do is actually take some time, at least 5 minutes to do birding at that area, and try to include that rare bird and also the local species there into your checklist. That will be the ideal scenario to upload that bird to the eBird. But if in many cases, if you don't have the time to bird it at that area, so then you can go with the incidental checklists. But ideally, what you should do, we should stop for at least 5 minutes there, and enter that species as well as some other species which are at that particular location as stationary checklist.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So something I do during my trips when I'm traveling sometimes, as bird watchers, we're always looking at birds. We can't stop doing that. So whether we're driving or whatever we're doing, so we often see these birds that are really interesting, but we don't have the time to look at every bird. So sometimes when I'm not driving the car, I'm sitting next to, let's say one of my friends is driving, I'm making the checklist. I sometimes make traveling incomplete checklists like this. Let's say we're going a little fast. It's not possible to actually identify every bird that is there around us. So actually then it would be an incomplete checklist, but you still want to note down what is there. So let's say I'm driving along and the European roller sitting here. I might put 5 European rollers, traveling checklist for 1 kilometer, but incomplete, not complete because I'm not looking at every bird that was
Okay.
there.
Yes, sir.
So
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. And one more question, sir. As we know that whatever checklist we are putting on the eBird, it is used for the scientific community. And I just want to know, can the birders how much it is useful for scientific community? How where and how we can know about how the scientific community is using our data, and what conclusions they are making? Like, is there any website, or do we have to on regular basis? Do we have to check the websites, or like how much can you, like, for in an example, can you share how much till in this year whatever data we have provided on the eBird, in what way that have been useful for the scientific community?
Okay, that's a. Should I answer that, Muzzafar?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So that's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked. So one of the biggest users that we have had in India so far of eBird data is that for the first time in the history of our country, we have been able to assess abundance trends and distributions of Indian species. So this is something that people have been able to do in some other parts of the world, because there are very large number of bird watchers, and they have these coordinated systematic surveys called breeding bird surveys. You might have heard of breeding bird surveys in North America, in UK, etc. But in India, we are very far away from this sort of a breeding bird survey, because you need a really large number of people, large number of bird watchers. So in the absence of that, we were thinking about there was no way for us to actually find out how our birds were doing. So if somebody was to ask you, what is the status of bar-headed goose in the country? Is it decreasing? Is it increasing? Maybe we can say, okay, in Ladakh, it looks like it's decreasing slightly, but I might say in Bangalore, I think it's increasing. So it's all about what we feel. That's what it used to be. But thanks to this data set now, last year, so Muzzafar has shared the link. There was we managed to do the State of India's Birds report. So this is a number of organizations that came together in India, including NCF, Wildlife Institute of India, WWF, and BNHS. And one of these few times where all these organizations came together, collaborated, any organization that works on birds, and analyzed this data, downloaded, analyzed it, and produced a set of trends that was then given to the government as a way to set priorities for all of these species.
Okay.
So you'll see, if you please go through the report. There's also a website. Let me share the link here. State of India's birds.in. So this is the website. And you'll see that over here, you can, for any species, you can download the trend graph. There's a distribution map, and all of this is, of course, any of you can use it, download it and use it in your presentations or anything it is. But more importantly, this is a way for the government or policymakers to actually take a look and see where to prioritize, which habitats to prioritize. So one of the things that came out of this were raptors are specifically badly affected in India, and raptors from grassland area. So this was a slightly something we all suspected, but the data also says that in grasslands, raptors like harriers, etc., have declined a lot. Redneck falcon and some of these. So direct recommendation to the government was that let's prioritize grassland habitats in the country, because those species in these habitats are declining considerably. Another recommendation we are able to give is about Arctic migratory shorebirds like little stins, golden plover. All of these birds seem to have declined a lot. So this is the sort of information that we can get from hard data that is uploaded like this. Of course, there is a little bit of complex statistics that needs to be used. Anybody who wants to analyze it can download the data, apply certain methods, and get these answers. And we hope that, so one of the gaps in the report was that there wasn't enough data to analyze some of the trans-Himalayan species. For example, like black-neck crane, etc., to find out what the status and trends are, which is why it's important to have a really broad, really widespread information, so that all of these, even uncommon birds, range-restricted birds, etc., we can understand their status and trends. So that is so this is one of the things. Some of the other uses, you'll see that the data is very often used in Indian birds publications to understand the status of let's say, a new species coming into an area. What is the actual distribution? So usually what we do is we go to eBird and see, okay, this is where it breeds. This is where it spends the winter. Now, why is it being seen in Ladakh? Now, for example, there was a rough-legged buzzard that was seen earlier. So now to be able to understand what is happening with rough-legged buzzard, how has it landed up in Ladakh, you need to understand that it's an Arctic breeder, and then it migrates a little, it migrates southwards, but sometimes during bad winters, it's possible for them to come even little further south to a place like Ladakh, which might be at the edge of its range. So that sort of information. And then finally, you might have seen some of these migration maps. Also check out the Bird Count India website. And even over here, you'll see that there are a number of outputs that have been made available, like these migration maps. So if you go to the website, you'll see that for about now 70-75 species, there are these maps that allow you to understand where birds are moving from to where. And this is all from data uploaded by birdwatchers. So these are some ways, and something else you should check out is the Bird Count India YouTube channel, where these videos have been made available on how to download the data. And let me share that while you ask the next question, how to download the data and how to analyze it, how to do some basic analysis on it using Excel and software called R. So eventually what we hope is that every citizen in the country will take this data and will try and understand what is happening with birds in that area and generate knowledge. So imagine the amount of knowledge we can generate if we all analyze the data set like this. So that is the hope, that all of us will be able to take this data and generate knowledge about birds. So while you ask the next question, I'll just share those links.
I will just add up that one of the practical examples of using eBird data, you were able to make understand the Wildlife Department of Jammu and Kashmir, the UT, to focus on the Gharana wetland, which is the top hotspot in Jammu and Kashmir in terms of the number of species. So because of that, when we projected the number of species and the map of the Gharana wetland to the Wildlife Department through eBird, the Wildlife Department has now vigorously focuses attention on conservation of the Gharana wetlands now. It was one of the uses where instances where we projected the eBird data to the Wildlife Department, and the results were the practical on ground, where they have now started the demarcation of that wetland and trying to solve the conflict between the local habitats and the wetlands. So this is one of the many instances where we can use the eBird data apart from scientific analysis. Direct using the conservation.
Okay, so thank you, sir.
Yeah, there are now many sites, actually, many wetlands, many regions around the country where people have been able to use eBird data to fight cases in court, saying that these areas actually have so many species, and there is hard data to prove this. So when some industry tries to take over a wetland, this is a great way to have that data already in place to say that, see, this place actually has so many species, so many threatened species, important species. And like Muzzafar suggested, there are examples where people are using it to fight legal cases as well.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions? Members of Birds Club, Ladakhi, birders, great birders, young birders, please. Meanwhile, I'll just share a couple of good news for especially our two panelists, that we are able to record around 8 to 10 new species to the checklist of birds. When we refer checklist of birds, we give respect to Otto P. Pfister for his contribution specific to Ladakh, birds of Ladakh and mammals of Ladakh. In the last September, October, this last month and this month, we were able to record with photographic evidence many new species, thanks to all the young birders who have been in the fields on and off. As recently as a couple of days before, in Nubra, from Nubra, Redwing, Red Cross Bill. Right. Yeah, that was recorded. I think
very awesome record.
Unbelievable.
You have a record in Srinagar as well?
I yesterday only
you got to know that, right?
Yeah.
And before that, as Ashwin ji has said, last year Choldan ji has recorded rough-legged buzzard, and for the first time, I think the falcon. What is this falcon? the falcon that travels from northeast, in thousands, and Amur, yeah.
Amur Falcon.
Amur falcon also was recorded this to 2021, both from Nubra as well as from Indus Valley. And of course, the second or third time record of the wood warbler. Then we have this booted warbler as well. And then recently, Padma Gyalpo has recorded, Richard's repeat, and so on and on. So a lot of additions are happening. We are kind of outstuck, kind of surprised with our own team. Like, is it happening, or it was just because earlier there were not many people in the field looking for birds? And then one more good news is, like, on our request, kind of, on recommendation or our representation to the Lieutenant Governor, Ladakh Bird Festival is happening at the end of this month, as initially I've shared with Ashwin ji. On the 28th, 29th, and 30th of October, for the first time in Ladakh, this Ladakh Bird Festival is happening officially. I think organized by the Department of Wildlife Protection, UT Ladakh. And then on that day, we have a book from the young photographers, members of Ladakh Birds Club, a comprehensive book on birds of Ladakh, which is officially already launched by Lieutenant Governor on the World Environment Day, but virtually. But the hard copies will be, launched on the Ladakh Bird Festival on 28th or 29th. So this has around 17 contributors, authors of the book, which is published by the GB Pan National Institute and the Department of Wildlife as co-author with the Ladakh Birds Club. So we'll be more than happy when you are in Ladakh to present one copy each to Muzzafar ji and then Ashwin ji when you come here. Or you can have it on Flipkart or Amazon, but then you have to pay for that. And then with great, with some this one, we were able to bring out the second edition of a magazine fully dedicated to the wildlife of Ladakh called Jammu. For sure, we will send one copy to each of you. Please text us your postal address. It is hard copy. Soft copies are not yet there on the website because we want to sell the hard copies first, and then once the cost is back, then we will have it online. So yeah, more questions. I was taking this time just an opportunity to let you know, because I think both of you will be more than happy to have good news from Ladakh. So we are doing something. We are crawling, but we are slowly, reaching out to at a level wherein we will be able to present better.
So I have personally, I've been really inspired by the efforts of Ladakh birders in the last 2 years. It's unbelievable. As in, I think no other region has added so many new species to the country recently. It's amazing. And just some of the environments are harsh in some places. Still, people go out in winter and watch birds. It's quite amazing. And I was going to come to the bird festival and participate. I'd been invited, but sadly I got a cold. So nowadays, with any sort of illness, it's better not to travel. So I'm not coming, sadly. Otherwise, it would have been a real pleasure to meet all of you.
Well, it should, yeah, you should have come. Actually, all of us, all of us know Ashwin and Muzzafar ji. Muzzafar, you can also come, sir.
Yeah, surely.
Just quite close by. Of course, it is not we are not the organizer or co-organizer. So we are just, I think we have a very little role. But then the UT administration, we can tell them to invite you as well as eBird reviewer from the region. So we'll see if you have time. We still might be having time to tell them that invite Muzzafar ji,
Sure.
Yeah.
That'll be great.
The questions, Choldanle, Stanbale, Sonomutizale.
Okay, sir. Ashwin sir, good evening. Muzzafar sir, good evening.
Good evening.
So actually, sir, I'm into bird watching since last not more than 3 years back. So very amateur in bird watching. Still we are learning, sir. We are very much at the learning stage. So I just want to know about how when you are watching a bird, a particular bird, so how you can collect the behaviors of the bird, so that you can use those datas, use those for our future, for your own personal, I mean, kind of, how I can say, sir, if you want to write your own kind of book, or you want to do your own work on that particular, any kind of particular species. So how we can study the behaviors of the birds, sir? Please, Muzaffar sir and Ashwin sir.
Ashwin,
Muzaffar,
should I?
you are studying birds
So,
yourself, so
what I used to do, I have done MPhil on birds in Bhadra area. So what I personally used to do is I used to make notes. Back then I didn't have knowledge of eBird. So what I do is use my binoculars or a video camera. Fortunately we had a video camera, but mostly I used to observe the birds through binoculars and take the notes whatever the bird was doing. For if it was feeding, I would note that the okay the and the Himalayan bulbul, it is feeding on which yeah, insect it was feeding on, insect it was feeding on seeds. I used to record or write down every detail what that bird was doing
Okay, sir.
in the form of notes on a notebook. But nowadays, if you have eBird, so you can add the bird to the checklist, and in the under the observation, under notes to that bird, you can write whatever that bird was doing. So this way, you can access that information wherever you are. Don't have to carry the notes to to every place. You have that information online. You can access from anywhere. And another
Right.
the usefulness is that you that it doesn't get misplaced. For example, my notes of the MPhil, they have got misplaced. I don't know where they are, but
Right,
on
right.
the eBird, I can and one click, I
Right,
can
right.
get all the information from 5 years back.
True, sir.
Okay,
True,
this
sir.
bird was there, what it was doing feeding again, etc.
Sir.
So what you should do, ideally observe the birds what they are doing and make all the comprehensive notes, and record them to the eBird and keep the notes to yourself. So
Sir.
whatever feasible, it is
Fine.
can
Fine. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I'll also add that
Sir.
like he said, like Muzaffar said, it's extremely important to observe what the bird is doing, not just find out which species it is, etc. But try
Sir.
and watch their behavior for as long as possible, and that is what really helps you become a good birder and eventually a scientist. Is
True.
my advice. Yeah.
True, sir. True, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So one, I'll just give one clarification. I don't know whether I missed this in the talk. So when Muzaffar spoke about the tracks, right? That all of you, when you use the app and you have your GPS on without internet, your route will be tracked. But your tracks will only be visible to you and your shared bird watchers, not to anybody else, not the public. So you don't have to worry that anybody else can see your tracks. So tracks are completely private. But you can also, there is a way for you to download all of the tracks that you've gone on. So you can also use this as a way for you to, instead of a GPS, instead of a physical GPS, for you to be able to track your own birding activity. And you can download all of them as KML files, whatever tracks you've created. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Ashwin ji or Muzaffar, I need to again like to clarify that small thing, that when we submit list, no, and there is these things that when we are submitting the list when you said whether it becomes complete or incomplete. So within that
Well, we have some issues with your network. You can repeat.
Got cut. Can you repeat that?
Jyotida, can you please unmute yourself and ask the question again?
yes, yes. I want to clarify once again that when we are submitting the checklist, that whether you are completing the checklist or incomplete, we have to put yes or no. So when we use yes and without mentioning all the hello, are you hearing me, sir?
Yeah, you are.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes. Carry on. Carry on.
So when we use yes, most of the time we use yes, and then without listing all the birds in and around, just the particular bird we highlighted. So will that be useful in this checklist, or what? What does it means? Can you once again clarify that?
Okay. So what Dhorjita is actually asking is if you have, you are birding in an area and you have observed a rare bird and you are not actually reporting all the birds to the list, but you are clicking on yes. When
Yes.
the question is in the question where you it is asked that are you submitting a complete checklist? So it will be listed as complete checklist and it will be used in the scientific analysis. But then again, it's not very ethical or moral to use to press the yes button when we are not reporting all the birds from that area. It will be it will appear as complete checklist because that is up to you. That is up to you.
So it's
So
actually
in
very
case-
important to put yes only if you have seen all the birds.
All the birds.
Only if you're reporting everything that you've seen in that area.
Same.
Because if you use yes otherwise, then it can be a little problematic.
We have to, which means when we mention yes, we have to submit all the birds we have seen in and around
In that particular, yes, right.
in that particular area.
Right.
Yeah,
During the period of birding.
During the period
Right.
of birding, yes.
Right.
So sometimes in Ladakh, let's say you might only say stand outside your house, and in the winter you might only see a magpie. It's possible.
Right.
In 5 minutes you might only see one, maybe one or two magpies. Is that possible? I've never been there in winter, but maybe.
Yeah. Right. You're right.
Yeah. So let's say 5-minute checklist you're making, you've only seen 2 magpies, then you can report those magpies and you can put yes, because that is actually a complete list. That is the only thing you've seen or heard during that 5 minutes. So 5 minutes, complete stationary list.
Yeah. In case if you use no, then what does it mean?
That means you have seen some bird, but you're not putting it there.
So will that be useful or no?
That will be excluded from the scientific analysis, whatever the analysis they are doing, that will be excluded from that analysis.
So that will be useful for distribution data. But not for trends, etc.
Trends.
Okay. Thank you.
That will be visible to all the public.
Yes.
If you are asking that will be visible to the public.
Right. You're right. I means that.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
So
sir.
it clears all the all the confusions about complete or incomplete checklist.
Incomplete checklist.
Yeah. Actually, what we do is every time we do birding, we happen to make it like we click on not complete checklist most of the time, but what I am clear that we can tick on yes for a particular time, and then maybe if there are different species next day, so we can, yeah. I just want to, say that I am clear about the complete or incomplete checklist. So thank you for that, Muzaffar ji, and yeah.
Great. Thanks much, Joel.
Last question from me, possibly if it is, it is 7, already over 7 something. So last time I asked Ashwin ji, it is about ethical, using calls or unethical. There are quite a lot of issues here. We are concerned. All the Birds Club members are concerned about, birders coming here and trying to find a species. And one of our youngest member here has come across a group leader who has who was trying to use a call for blue throats, like, Ladakh is an open area where use of calls are should be restricted. That is what we call. We have a representation to the Hill Council and Administration to include these regulations in the wildlife, kind of act or something, so that in future, whoever does birding, जो ज़्यादा species देखने का ललिश में है ना, so they try to roam with the big speakers with the Wi-Fi connections. How do you say? Sorry, this Bluetooth connection. So please give some suggestions so that all the members know what to do, when to say what to do, because our members are very often in the field with some birding groups. So we are countered by this group photographers, especially not the birders, but mainly for wildlife photographers, bird photographers. They are very, very adamant about using those to get a good picture. So please.
Muzaffar, do you want to take this?
I think the best person would be you, Ashwin.
Okay. Again, an excellent question. This is something that birdwatchers all over the world are grappling with.
Ashwin, just one second. Wangtak, Rigzinle. Wangtak, unmute your this one. No? You mute your. Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So what I was saying was, this is an important ethical consideration that is always playing in the minds of birders around the world, really. You can say in a way that there are many parts of the world, say parts of South India, etc., where there is absolutely no need of playback under any circumstance, because there aren't these sorts of birds that are so difficult to see. But the main reason why playback is being used as a tool so much is because now there is a big increase in bird tourism, and bird tourism is an important form of revenue to some parts of the country, some parts of the world, etc. So in places like Northeast India, when you have people paying a lot of money and going from, let's say, a place like Bangalore or Bombay, when people go to these places, they expect to be shown certain birds. And in Northeast, especially birds like these wren babblers, bush warblers, etc., it's very difficult to see those without playback. So that's why local guides in these places have started use playback to be able to show these birds. Now, there is I'll just quickly speak about the advantages and disadvantages. Disadvantages, of course, we all know. These disturb birds. When you use playback, it's going to disturb birds. It's going to make them think, if you're playing the song of a male, it's going to make them think there's another male in that area. What does that do? That increases the stress for that bird. It makes it come out, makes it want to, makes it aggressively behave in that moment. And there is some stress. So there's some effect on the behavior of the bird, potentially even slightly greater effects on the bird. Now, what are the positives of something like this? The positive is that there is some incentive for local people in some of these places to get many tourists there, therefore get more money into bird watching, and there is a monetary incentive to try and to preserve birds in that area. So in some ways, we have seen that places like Eagle Nest Wildlife Sanctuary, the only reason it really it exists in the way it does today, it's such a great example of bird tourism. It's such a well protected area where the local communities, the Bugun community and the Nishi communities, etc., themselves are most interested in protecting that area. Therefore, nobody can do anything to it. And that is because since the last 15 years, people from all over the world have been coming to try and see birds like Bougainvillea, Chikla, etc., which have always been, which are always shown to bird watchers through playback, because people come from, let's say, somewhere in Europe for 2 days, and in those 2 days they want to see that. And if people are not going to show that, they'll go away and people will stop coming. So that is the pressure that is there on local bird watchers to be able to show that bird, and that is where playback helps. So what people have learned in all of these places, in some of these places, is there is a middle path. It's not about completely banning playback, but it's not about also using playback unrestrictedly. Because if you use it continuously, unrestrictedly, there can be great effects on birds. And then what is going to happen? Your main source of livelihood in that area, which is the birds, are going to be affected. So it's a really bad thing to depend on this. So what? There are ways to use playback ethically, and this is something that people are still learning in some of these places. But there is still a lot of research required here in what exactly is ethical. Do you play it 4 times, 5 times? How many times can you play during a day or in a month? Can you play everywhere? Are some birds more affected than others? These are all things that we need to still study. But one more slight advantage of playback in places like Eagle Nest is all the birding only happens on one road. Because people are using playback, they are not entering the habitat. So nests, other kinds of disturbance when you're walking through bushes, think that thousands and thousands of people are visiting this place every year. And if people are going into the habitat on the side, there will be so much disturbance to the birds. So everybody does their birding on the roads, and whenever there's a difficult bird, they call the bird out, they see that, and it goes back. Now, that said about Eagle Nest and about Northeast India, where many birds you cannot see at all without playback, the situation is different in Ladakh. In Ladakh, it is possible to see almost every bird without playback. At least in my experience, with a little bit of patience, it is possible. So my suggestion in Ladakh is that the bird club come out with not a ban on it, but to have very strict guidelines saying that playback should be avoided as much as possible. Like playback can be avoided unless there is an extreme need or unless there is an extreme situation. It is possible to see all these birds of Ladakh, whether it's white-browed tit warbler, whether it is blue throats, whether it's this thing, Chinese ruby throat. All of these birds in summer will be singing and out, and you can see them. So without playback. So these are guidelines that can be brought out, and people can, instead of my suggestion is the bird club can try and work with these guides to try and educate them. Say that over here you don't need to use any form of playback because these birds can be seen otherwise. Which is why even when we're birding in Bangalore and some other places, there is no need for it because these are not birds that sit inside the bush and never come out. So a little bit of patience, you can see them. So that is the sort of education that you can impart to the bird watchers that are coming there. So I would say that they might come with this idea that, okay, I'm using playback in all these places, which makes a lot of sense. Using playback in Northeast India makes a lot of sense. But they might come with the same attitude to Ladakh. So you can tell them that unless there is an extreme need to do it, avoid playback. Because in Ladakh, you do not need playback to do your bird watching. So this is the sort of education which I think all of the bird club members in Ladakh can impart to visiting bird watchers. And visiting bird watchers may not come with this knowledge. So it's really important that all of you can provide this knowledge to them. And together try and make them understand that this is not required perhaps over here. So that is my suggestion. But of course, it is up to you considering you're custodians of that area. And
thank you, Ashwin. Yeah, thank you. It is it clears us. We try to tell them, especially the group leaders who want to become billionaire in a month or year or something like that by showing birds. So these are the type of people who does that. Not every bird watcher or photographer,
Yeah.
but the organizer who brings this group, you know. So when we say they get some negative response, they think that it is all about non-locals are not allowed or something. But we don't allow, you know, our own members don't use any calls till now, and we never allow that. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
More questions?
I can add one thing, Lobsang. There is one situation where I believe that using calls might be okay. Let's say that you hear something completely new and you have no idea what it is. It could be something important. In such a case, I would say that to identify that bird, to find out what it is, assuming that you actually believe that it is something very special. In that case, you can record that sound and play it back once just to be able to identify this bird, but not for the sake of any greater glory. So just to be able to identify and document, it is might be worth doing, but not for anything that we already know. Yeah.
Yeah, exceptional cases. Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Ashwin. So yes, please. More questions? Otherwise, we are already 1 hour 30.
Sir, one thing. Hello, good evening, sir. Good evening, Ashwin ji, Muzzafar ji, and as well as Kaushidale. I have few questions, but I don't want to ask now because all are not said in the mind in particular time. So I would like to thank to both of you for sharing your kind of personal perspective, thought, experience, whatsoever there is. So it seemed like very interesting the e-birding because I have not done earlier. So this is very seem like interesting, but we have to do some more practice, then all will be complete. So we can share, we can upload everything else. So without any question, I would like to thank all of you and as well as Kaushidale for conducting such meeting. Thank you and very good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Antagle. Thank you so much. He's one of our founder members of the Bus Club. He's working in the wildlife department, and he was the one who has, for your information, the scientists here, the experts here have skipped one mammal in the checklist of mammals of Ladakh. That was one of the flying mammals, which he photographed, and Wang Takle has shot the photograph of this gray long ear bait, or there is some differences, but then one bait that is available in Ladakh, that is there is so thank you, Wang Takle, for your conclusion. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Khalid.
Thank you, everyone.
And I must say that, Lobsang, I'm very closely following your group, the Wildlife Conservation and Birds Club of Ladakh. I used to follow your posts and everything what you are doing in Ladakh. You are doing a very great job. I would someday like to meet you all there whenever I'll be in Ladakh.
Definitely, we would like to invite all of you. Please do come in May or September. These are the times when migration of the birds, passage migrants, more of them are seen, and we'll be more than happy to host both of you. Especially Muzzafar ji, you are close to us, quite close. Like 1 hour, not even 1 hour flight. Please do come. Do let us know in advance. We are following you all. Almost all of us know each other better than today's interaction, actually. So thank you so much for hosting this. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So what I will be doing is I will be copying all these best practices, the article to you, Lobsang. I will share you 2 links. One is on the counting of the birds, and one is regarding this best practice which we have. I had the presentation, so you can share with all your group, and they can read it anytime. It's all online.
Also, this session has been recorded, so we'll share it with you, Lobsang ji, and you can share it with the participants. We'll keep it within ourselves, the video, or with anybody else in any other birders in Ladakh. You can share it.
Yeah, this.
Lobsang, you got muted.
Sorry. This video which we have today, this webinar, please share us the link, or if it is on YouTube, it will be very helpful for others who couldn't attend today. Thank you so much.
Certainly. Yeah.
Thank you so much for specially organizing a webinar specially for Ladakh birders. It was really helpful, especially when Muzzafar ji said like you cannot have 10 hours and above and 100 kilometers or one location at a time and different species, water birds, and the habitat changes, and you have to have separate species. And shorter time, shorter distance is better for a checklist. And complete and incomplete, this clarity is there when Daya asked. 1 hour is the maximum, and then how many miles? So one
mile.
Like that, 1 mile, Then and when you have a checklist for traveling for some distances, the middle of that, center of that should be the location. So then the historical, incidental traveling, and then these were really helpful because all of our checklist will have some or the other problems of this, including the nocturnal and then those things. So thank you so much. Very, very enlightening and clarifies many of our doubts. And hopefully very soon we will be able to update our checklist to the standard that you all want us to do. Thank you so much.
And I just want to thank Muzzafar ji for the slides, in which I think one of the last one is my mistaken slide, this checklist, I guess.
I don't know that.
Yeah, it looks like yes. We will correct the previous mistakes, and we will try to, and we will, do a meaningful checklist, and yeah.
Okay.
And thanks a lot for this.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
This nice session. So yeah, it helps us a lot with our mistakes, and yeah, thank you so much, so much, Muzaffar and Ashwin ji, and eBird obviously.
Yeah.
Thank
you. And bot count is
bot count, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Muzzafar.
Okay.
Really wonderful session. And
I'm not very good at public speaking, but somehow I hope I have done justice to what I was trying to say. My problem is that I'm not very good at speaking publicly.
Who said that, sir? Who said that? The name of the person who said Muzzafar is not a good speaker. You are to the point and clear, and we got everything what you said, 100% to the point. Thank you so much.
That's great. Thanks.
So I also want to encourage all of you to try downloading the data and analyzing it for the Ladakh region to see what you're able to find out from it. Anything new, any new knowledge or insight. So I'd really encourage you to do that, to start downloading the data. And also, I know a number of you are already writing articles for Indian Birds and other journals, but please continue doing that, because that really there is so much knowledge to come out of that region. So
and Lobsang, when you are trying to publish that book regarding the birds of Ladakh, try to use the eBird data as well. For example, the maps, the ranges for every bird. If you could insert the range maps for every bird in for the Ladakh region, that will be helpful for the non-Ladakhi people who will be based in there.
That is a great suggestion. Thank you. Yeah, we will do that in the next edition of the magazine. When we have a new edition of species, which we already have a dozen for the next issue. Yes, thank you so much. These are great suggestions. So I think there are no more questions. Thank you so much, panelists, Ashwin ji and Muzzafar ji, and yeah, looking forward for both of you to visit Ladakh in a good time when the weather is not that cold here.
Surely.